Thanks, Goose. Hex, I wasn't actually that excited about another God of War game until I sat down and played it, and then I remembered that God of War is like this.
There have been a bunch of God of War games now, so much so that I'm starting to feel a bit of nostalgia with these games, Barjo. Especially as this game is a prequel to the whole series, telling the story of how Kratos became the perpetual Hulk we know today.
There are some interesting ideas surrounding his origin, but it is a little hard to follow at times. There's a few small time jumps for creative storytelling reasons, which muddy things a little. Also, he doesn't really say much for the first hour of gameplay. You're just left with snippets of dialogue from whom Kratos is chasing.
You think you are special because Ares chose you.
And those familiar voice-overed cutscenes.
The Furies were brought forth.
In fairness, none of the other God of Wars have been particularly easy to follow due to the complex plots and characters, all loosely based around Greek mythology. Also, in this game, Kratos has this bizarre fog of amnesia, which is so tired, and it's been done, and it makes me want to switch off a bit anyway.
Yeah, I know. It's an origin story. Why give someone some weird sort of amnesia in an origin story? Just start from the beginning.
But we play God of War for its gravitas, and this game delivers on that and then some. Kratos is a small, tough guy in a big, tough world. Almost everything is bigger than him and wants to tear him down.
In fact, quite often he gets so small in the distance you can't actually see what he's doing. This is a stylistic choice though, and it works, and I love those sections. In fact, I love how cinematic this game is in general, and those big areas that it just shows you.
Yeah, I mean, few games present those big sweeping shots with such elegance.
I think the big sections are even bigger this time around, but more importantly, you're so often fighting on big, moving, crunching platforms that change your perspective, and it's just so spectacular. And there's lots of those little sliding, dodging sections, which appear to be the flavour of the month at the moment, Hex. Kratos in the fights. Hang on a sec. Pause. Rewind that a bit. Roll on. Okay, pause. Kratos has no penis. Also, you never feel like the game is pausing, waiting for you to do something to trigger the next event or spawn of enemies. It's all organic. It just rocks along at a good pace.
Yeah, for example, how the QuickTime events have also evolved. Now when you're fighting large and mini bosses, you'll have to dodge within little finisher sections. It's a small thing that adds lots to fights, and it brings you more into the combat.
Yeah, there's a lot of good fights to be had in this game, and some very brutal ones as well. But there's some twists on the formula that keeps things interesting. Your sword on a chain can now lasso an enemy first, which helps for crowd control and also throws a few extra combat options into the mix. As you fight, the better you do, the more your rage meter will fill up. When it's totally full, you can unleash unlocked abilities.
The combat system really isn't explained that well, but you do eventually work it out, and arguably you could say that's half the fun. Another twist is that you're not powering up weapons, you're powering up elements which have different bonuses and effects.
It's a nice visual change to the fights, and now you'll be switching to, say, ice if you want to knock back enemies and try and dislodge the weapons they're carrying. And while I did miss having a bunch of weapons that I can actually power up and use whenever I want, you can find weapons on the ground, like a good 90s beat 'em up. They're mostly useless, but at least it does mix things up. And enemy setups are fantastic. You're always being surprised and outnumbered. And I think it's even a little bit harder too, and even the puzzles are slightly better than the last game. And this is good because 3 did feel a bit easy all around.
There's so much variety in who you fight and how you do it as well. Levels feel a bit more cohesive now, less like rooms of goons with force fields and more like you're in unknown territory getting attacked by its inhabitants. Platforming markers are more subtle, and this can lead to some confusion about where you're supposed to go. Sometimes I felt like Kratos knew where to go, but I didn't, and that can be really frustrating. Plus, he's definitely the brooding, silent type, so it's not like he's dropping hints of where to go all the time.
Yeah, I found myself jumping at a few invisible walls, and that's a clear sign that the level design isn't perfect at guiding you through. But these are very minor issues when you look at the game overall.
Such amazing creature design too, Barjo. Those poor elephants. The level of detail and the wobble in each enemy is just perfect. They really feel like their weight and size as you interact with them.
Yeah, like this big ogre guy. He's so beautiful, Hex, the way he moves like a big, dumb, slow ogre should. This is the first R18 game that we've reviewed, and you can see why. There is a lot of blood, guts, brains, and intestines.
Yeah, the gore definitely works for this setting, of course it does, but there are a few moments where it does take it to a little bit of an indulgent level. I was happy to see that they've cleverly opted out of the usual Kratos has sex with 10 women quick-time event scene.
I don't know how he even did it without a penis. There's a lot to like in this game, such as the heal decay mechanic, which we have seen before, but it's still beautifully complex to the eyes. And later, when you get the ability to make a copy of yourself, the puzzles take a more interesting turn. All of these abilities play into the combat as well, and when everything's going off at once and you've got a good combo chain going and you unleash some abilities, it's quite a sight.
Also, it's a small thing, but it's so great that Kratos bashes open the chests now. Well, some of them at least. You know, it really helps with the pace of the game, and I wish he did that with all of them. Yeah. They've really got the formula down pat, and while a lot of this feels familiar, they've just got a few little tweaks that keep this exciting.
The boss fights have been thought out as well, such as this Total Recall boss and his ability to slow down time. I love having to think hard about a boss fight where it doesn't feel confusing or cheap, and I think they've nailed that.
Another addition is the multiplayer. Now, a lot of people have been quite vocal in saying, why even include multiplayer in this series, especially since the beta wasn't that exciting. I didn't get to test out the multiplayer before launch, but you actually left your house and went to one of the official multiplayer sessions.
I did leave the house.
How's that?
I kind of dig it. It's like they've taken a fighting game character and put it into a 3D space, except it actually works and is fun. You're almost always hitting where you want to be, and the collisions are fantastic. Finishing an enemy on low health is brutal, and that mechanic works some nice strategy into the battlefield too. You can also build classes, whether it be focused on magic or damage, and even a stealth class. There's lots of unlocks and gear, and it feels quite balanced from the few hours that I had with it. On top of that, there are various things you can interact with within each map. That plays into some of the modes well, like capture the flag or domination.
Last flag remaining.
It's not perfect. There are some rough edges to some of the levels and some camera issues.
Brutal.
But I think it's good enough and fleshed out enough not to be dismissed. My favorite thing about the whole multiplayer is that everything has a counter, and the color coding telegraphs that well, so you know whether you need to do an avoid or do a quick attack to stop an unblockable one, that kind of thing. You can't play as a goddess of war, though. It's all a bit of a boys' biffo club. I had a great time with this game overall, Hex, and what I love most about God of War is that you never know what to expect around each corner. I'm giving it 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, for an origin story, I was expecting a little bit more of a journey, but you can't deny that Kratos is just a well-polished fighting machine, so I'm giving it 8 out of 10.